here we are again. It's Craig and Jane on the Craig and Jane's Psychic Show. And nice to see you all again.
And good evening, everybody.
We're going to talk tonight about some of the remarkable people we've met over our spiritual journey in life, aren't we, Jane?
And they've been very blessed to meet us.
Yes,
Craig,
yes. So we're going to talk about enlightened people we think we've met. We're going to talk about some of the people with extraordinary
eccentric people, famous people, remarkable people, spiritual people, gurus. So
we don't even know we're going to talk about. We haven't really discussed it. We're just going to chat about something.
So we're just going to say hello.
So you can ask questions, of course. So say hello.
Yep. Joanne, hello, Jane and Craig. Hope you're well and staying warm in the cold weather. Yes, it has been rather
cold, and we've got heating here, thank God now. But before it was really freezing here, wasn't it? Nian is saying, good evening, Jane and Craig from Brittany.
Oh.
Not that far away as the crow flies, but a long way away when you get a boat. And Neil saying, hello, Neil. Namaste, Craig and Jane from Melbourne in Australia, which I hope is a lot warmer there, I should imagine.
Agility Bits, hello from Cornwall. Hello, Agility, how are you?
Faisal is saying, go in and van Zurich, Africa. So it's from South Africa. Thanks for coming from South Africa. I speak fluent South African, as you can tell. Afrikaans there, rather.
Sheila says, good morning from India. Namaste, my enlightened dears. Looking forward to listening to you both.
Yeah, and it's a lot warmer since you came on the show with us, actually, Sheila. You were chattering, I remember. Good evening, everyone, from freezing Oxfordshire, says Simin.
Indeed, what's that say? Dino, hello from New Haven, USA.
Connecticut, yes. Nice to hear you guys. Elaine is saying, hi, Jane and Craig. Great seeing you every week. You always cheer me up. Oh, we'll tell her something miserable today then, shall we? And you always both look so great. Thanks, very nice. It's nice you say kind things. So if you're just joining the show, we'll be talking all about remarkable people we've met over our time. And we'll take your questions and any remarkable people you might know of.
Steve is saying, Ant and Dec are looking good tonight. Hello. Well, I'm certainly a female.
Ant and Dec, yeah. Morecambe and Wise. Neil is saying, looking good as always, Craig and Jane. That's nice of you guys. Yeah. So we always have a little intro like this where we just say hello to people, let everybody get online.
Lisa, hello from Milton Keynes. Hello, Lisa.
Mystical Milton Keynes.
Christina says, hello, Craig and Jane. Great topic tonight.
Yeah, I hope so. We've got some interesting people we have met. I don't know where it's going to go, actually. Mary's saying, Om Sai Ram from New York.
Om Sai Ram.
Om Sai Ram from New York. We've had an Om Sai Ram from India too, all around the world. Fleming saying, hello, Craig and Jane from Copenhagen, Denmark. Nice to see you. A lot of people in Denmark are very interested in spirituality, I've realised.
Yeah.
Tracy
also, blessings from Staffordshire. Blessings to you, Tracy, too.
And Blank is saying, hello, Blank from Blankety Blank. Oh, and here we go.
Lottie, hello, Jane and Craig. On a mystical level, how come people could hold opposite ideas and chat and discuss before 2000? Now people not able to disagree without, what's that,
disintegrating. Well, that's true, isn't it? We have got a divisive world, and a lot of that, I think, personally, is due to social media, because everybody sort of focuses on the people that and the ideas that they believe in and get stuck in it and think that's the only opinion out there. So it's important to always, I think, in the world to get as wide a view as possible and research your ideas. And you know, you've got Google at your disposal. So nowadays we can dig deep and find the real facts on all these things that conspiracy theories, for example, can sometimes get a bit carried away with, can't they? You know, sometimes the simplest answer is usually the right one, instead of all these complicated theories about what goes on in the background. You know, Occam's razor is the idea that the simplest answer is usually right. That's why simplistic people like me and Jane might get closer to the truth. So, Jane, let's have a chat about some of these people that we were going to talk about. Now, I've forgotten the guy's name. He's in the news recently.
He's Brendan Grimshaw.
Mr. Grimshaw? Yeah, Mr. Grimshaw, you remember that?
Now, Precious said, did you ever get to meet Doris Stokes?
Well, we'll
Yes.
carry on first of all and talk about what we were talking. We're going to kick off with, because Mr. Grimshaw, as it was, in the news at the moment. Brendan Grimshaw's in the news at the moment.
He's just passed. He was 81 years old, and I can remember when we first met him. Craig.
Yeah, well, let's just explain who he is for the people that don't know, because he was on the Seychelles, right, and he's just recently been a person that has dedicated. He's just recently died, and he's given the island that he owned to become a ecological haven in the Seychelles, hasn't he? And we went out and we met him while we were there, didn't we? So we thought we'd introduce him as one of the first topical sort of topics of some of the people we've met, because he's in the news at the moment. And he was basically offered $50 million for the island by a big hotel group owned by a Saudi. And he turned it down. He said, I want this to be a legacy for the people out there.
He started off as a journalist, and he bought the island for, say, 14,000, which was a lot going back in the 50s. And he created it himself with his friend from the Seychelles, and they planted every plant on there, and they encouraged all birds to go on there. And he even built a little church on there, which was made of all the trees there.
Yeah, it was a fabulous. Let's put the name of, I can't remember the name of the island. We've got a photograph of the name of the island we can put up, I think. What was it called? I've forgotten the name of the island. It was blank. No, it was Moyen Island, that was it. Moyen Island, that's where we went. And I remember getting off the boat into that beautiful sea there, wasn't it? That beautiful setting it was. Fabulous place we went to meet him, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we went to the island, and you got to meet him.
Well, this is him. And when we first met him, there was this man walking around with a very tiny thong on.
I remember.
I was quite shocked, because it's not every day you see a wrinkly man with a thong on. And first thing he said to me, I thought it was Diana Dawes that came to visit me. I said, she's a relative of mine. And he laughed. And he was a lovely, lovely man. But he lived on this island with about 150 tortoises.
Oh yeah, we went round together, didn't we? We looked at all the tortoises. They were quite amazing, huge, great animals, you know. And I have a sort of a closeness to tortoises, because with my hair, I sometimes look a bit like one of these tortoises, I think sometimes. But you could walk amongst them, you know, and they're rare. There's two tortoises there. They look lovely. And I had a bit of hair at the back then. And they live a long time, and they're an endangered species. And he brought hundreds of them on the island, and really he was I see as being quite a remarkable man.
He was a remarkable man. He even dug his own grave there that he wanted to be buried on there.
Did he really?
And and there was two other graves which were pirates. He told me. Which is like people, you know, that...
He's got the Pirate Cafe on there as well. He had Pirate's Cafe on there.
But he had, he even built a cocktail bar on there.
Yeah.
And he lived very frugally in a hut, and he bred these tortoises and things. And for his treat with his man Friday friend, he used to go to the pictures and get a boat over to the other island.
Oh, right, I forgot about that.
And then he built a shower there on the island. It was very basic and everything.
He said to me, I remember he said that they had to carry the water up the hill. Yeah. They had no water, there's no natural water on the island, I think. And they had to carry the water right up to the top, because it was quite a steep slopes there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he'd carry all that water, massive, to shower as well.
Yeah, and I remember when we got off this boat, there was other boats coming in, and they were like manservants, not our personal manservants, but they had all the food bringing over to the island, lovely curries, and it had great big silver dishes on, and transporting it. It was sort of like a mystical thing, really, in a way.
It was fantastic. Yeah. And yet he was offered like $50 million. And that was going back. That'd be more now. No. And he said, I'm not going to have some big hotel for the rich who are going to just enjoy this. This is an ecological thing for the future. Yeah.
And another thing, it was meant to be buried treasure, and I think that was just a bit of an old wives' tale to get people to go and visit. and it was meant to be haunted because they say, "Can you hear them, Jane?" The whispers and everything.
Yeah, he was quite an interesting, funny character, wasn't he too? And but if you look at all of the islands on the Seychelles now, all these little beautiful paradises, they've all got hotels being built on
it's a
them.
shame,
Even
isn't it?
Bird Island, which was just for the birds, is going to have a hotel built on
Oh
it.
dear, it's a
And we
shame,
went
isn't it?
to Le Digue too, didn't we? Which was absolute paradise
Oh,
place.
that was interesting, wasn't it?
Absolute
You had
paradise.
tortoises there, and they made a film there actually.
Bounty
by where
adverts
all
were
the-
made there,
Where
actually.
all the lotus flowers were. And do you remember we went to visit the Coco de Mer?
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely
a
fantastic.
rainforest.
But
we
he
walked
was a
through.
beautiful man, I think. One, I would say, was one of the many remarkable people we've met
Never
in our life.
married, did he?
No, but I don't know why. If it was Man Friday was
Well,
like.
what woman wants to live with 150 tortoises?
He lived his life in Africa too, with the papers in Africa, I think it was. He said.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's one of the people. We've got a question here. We need more enlightened people for these times. Yeah. Now that's an enlightened in a sort of sense of, socially enlightened, isn't it? Do you think that any past enlightened people have reincarnated to help us today, like Doris Stokes and others?
I wouldn't say Doris Stokes was enlightened.
No, she was a more awake person than many, I think. What do we mean by enlightened? We can mean levels of awakening, or we can mean like Buddha-like enlightenment. But I think there are many people that do walk amongst us who
Ordinary people as
are
well.
awake. And I think many of us are awakening too. Many people are thinking in this way. And there are also many people that walk through this world like somnambulists. They're asleep, they're sleepwalking through the world.
The Dalai Lama, I'd say, was enlightened.
Yeah, no, that was a person we met
We
as
met
well.
the Dalai Lama as well. And I think we had Joanne Lumberley there, and we had
That was on the second occasion.
Yeah, and then the Tibetan monks.
But the most important thing I think about that was, although we didn't have a personal interview with him as such, but I mean we were close to him. And when we came away from the Dalai Lamas, both of us were like spaced out. I mean we were getting visual hallucinations as such. Well, not as hallucination. We walked away from it into St James Park, didn't we?
That's because your perceptions are heightened and wide awake. So if you had a bird that suddenly flew past, you get all the whooshing sounds of the wing, and the trees seem to come alive. I've never taken drugs or LSD or anything like that, but I should imagine that's what it's like.
A bit, I thought someone had slipped me some Kool-Aid, but I mean,
that?
Cool. It's like I'll give you some later on, Joe.
No, you won't.
But it was like we were just both spaced out, not for a long period of
wasn't
time.
spaced out.
We were perceptionally we were both open. We were communicating.
But I'm really talking about the second time when he was at St Paul's Cathedral and we were invited there, and we had little Willow with us, and the moment he stepped past her, she has suddenly done this, recognised him. You've forgotten that, haven't you? And he was given £1 million to spend in India, and he laughed. He said it goes from this hand to this other hand.
And away.
I've never had, but it's going for once from this hand to this hand. And laughed, didn't he? He was a remarkable man.
I mean, he's one, is the Dalai Lama an enlightened man? I don't know whether we'd claim that or not. You see, most of the enlightened people in the world never claim enlightenment, do they? Even the Buddha didn't really claim enlightenment. It's his followers that talk about the enlightenment. But he is one of those people that walks amongst us today. And whether there'll be another incarnation of the Dalai Lama in the future, I don't know. I hope he does, but he says he's going to be the last in his line, I think.
Yes, I think China have already.
And China's
making
trying
one.
to slip in the Panchen Lama to replace him, who they kidnapped from Tibet. So, wherever there's enlightened people, there's dark forces too.
I think, like Sheila's saying, I think when we're all in sort of the 21st century with these mobile phones, laptops, and iPads, it does take us away because, I mean, even us, we're sort of addicted to it. And I think we need to come away from that.
Yeah, I'm as addicted as anybody else, and it is very bad for our mental health because what it's destroying is it's destroying our ability to focus and to have attention. Now, I know we're in a new age and it's very different, and the kids are going to be brought up with learning computers and have a completely different mindset to what we would have had at their age. But I think there's a big danger in losing the ability to fix the attention, because part of the whole concept of meditation is first you have to have, you have dharana and dharaya. You have to have focus. Without focus, you can't do the meditation. You have to first fix the mind before the mind can go into meditation. That's what all these techniques are about. But what we have with social media and the short attention span stuff we have today, television's as bad, and everything, is that we lose the possibility of being able to go into those states of meditation. So, you know, we gain from having all these communications, don't we? But we lose. I mean, this is fantastic. We can reach out and talk to people like this. Fantastic. Marvellous. But at the same time, you know, too much of all this can be too much for everybody. We need to, you know, how often do we walk in the woods? How often do we walk by the sea? How often do we sit and just chat for hours with friends? Those type of times we lose. We want to get straight back onto the iPhone, you know. And I'm as bad as anybody.
You're worse.
Because I'm checking, these guys are making more comments. Let's see, I'm responding to you lot, you know. So who else would you think, Jane, as being quite an important, people that have impressed you in our lives?
Sai Baba, going to actually stay in the ashram about 3 weeks at a time. And actually when you had this remarkable avatar that's walking in front of you, and it was a wonderful experience, and you actually see his enlightenment. You can see his aura and everything with him, and he picks up your thoughts, doesn't he, telepathically?
I think going to see Sai Baba was one of the most remarkable and powerful experiences that either of us had, because we were new to India. It was a complete and total culture shock for us. We were desperately jet lagged, and through all this haze of getting into India and all this shock of everything, you see this incredible man that seemed to, he didn't walk, he seemed to float. And we were lucky, because I think you were too at the same time, both in the front row straight away on the first day.
He came to me in a dream and he showed his ashram pink and blue. He said, come in a Thursday, leave on a Tuesday, front row, and that exactly happened.
And I had exactly the same too, Jane. I had a dream, he said front row, and we were both front row the first time we arrived. And actually anybody that's been there would know that that's unusual to get right on the front row. Very rare, because there was a lot of people around him in those times. So he was, you know, he had a massively deep impression upon us. And I think some what you would call enlightened people, you know, he's not enlightened because he was, you know, he's what they call an avatar. So he's born awake, as it were, or certainly comes to a certain point in his life where he's awoke.
I bet you, Craig, sometimes think you were born awake.
I think I was born asleep. Yeah, definitely. Are all enlightened people good and positive?
Well, most of the enlightened people we met are good people.
Yeah, actually, it is an interesting, difficult and interesting question, that. But I think sometimes, you know, what is the enlightened state? You know, I call the enlightened state samadhi. There's I did a little video recently about it, which I didn't think was that good a video, to be honest. But because it's hard to express these things. But there's this state called samadhi, which is beyond the mind, beyond all that we can possibly conceive with the rational mind. And some people experience that state. I mean, I've met, for example, I met a guy called Guru Maharaji, right, who was another early divine light mission, a bit of an oddball sort of guru, I think. And they were deliberately trying to force the Kundalini to awake. So people were getting an enlightened state thrown into this Kundalini awakening. And sometimes people could go into that state, they wipe away, they're into the absolute, as it were, their mind's dissolved into the Godhead, but sometimes they can come out and the ego can come back even quicker and can become like a trap. And they can come away quite narcissistic and believing they're something that bigger than they are and something special, yeah. So there are dangers to it, possibly, but that's an difficult, very contentious thing I'm saying.
I think another remarkable person that we met was Oliver Reed.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say he was an enlightened man.
I'm not saying he was an enlightened, but an enlightened in his own way. Through, I mean, when you actually look, he was a remarkable actor. Though he had a drink problem, that was his way of dealing with it. But don't you remember you met him and the crew was told, please do not offer him a drink, and a runner said, would you like a drink, meaning a cup of coffee or tea?
Yeah.
I said, yes, or have...
Well, this is going back to, we met a lot of remarkable people, didn't we, on the big breakfast there. Patrick Swayze was the person I was perhaps most impressed with because of his humility. He was a lovely man, I found. And also the boxer, Frank Bruno, lovely man too, who I think, who had a lot of dark thoughts, I think, in his life.
Oh, wow.
But it was a man that I think is another model that you can look
Good,
to, and the
a
kids
good
would look to
person.
him, and he'd play to it to help people. And Pele actually too, because we met
him.
we didn't, that was on the big breakfast. When we met Pele, he had a lovely humility to him
Yes.
as well. For a man that was that great, you know, he went. Where did we meet him? That was Florence, wasn't it? We
Yeah,
met him.
Florence. He
Yeah.
stayed. He happened to book in the same place.
He
that
knew we were
did.
staying there. Yeah. Yeah. But don't you think that that's another mark of of a great soul, is that they have modesty and humility?
Well, he was interested in healing as well, Pele.
Yeah, I know that. He used to think, people used to actually, because they were so in awe of him, he found that he could exude a sort of a healing power. He was very interested in spiritual healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, have you met Satguru? No, we haven't met him personally. We do know about him.
Our friends had him round for a personal in America. They
in
had
Los
him
Angeles, yeah.
had him come round to not Beverly Hills. They were in Hollywood Hills when he came up to them there, and he visited them, didn't he?
Yeah.
We've not met him personally. I know he's a big name though at the moment.
Well, I mean, I do know a lot about him, but my guru I like is Sharavana Baba.
Yeah. I know Sadhguru is not very popular in India. When I went to southern India and Chennai and that, the people I spoke to, because they had big posters of him up everywhere, big billboards, and people were saying, I said, oh, Sadhguru, I've seen him on the YouTube. And people go, bah, Sadhguru, no good. So he's not very popular there. He's more popular, I think, here in the West.
Well, because it's
An intelligent, clever man.
An intellectual man.
I always call him a pundit rather than an enlightened being. I don't see him as being an enlightened man, but I see him as being a positive force, but more of an intellectual force, like a professor.
That's right.
Lottie Martin saying, this is amazing. Could we all have centres around like spiritual churches where people could meet online and then meet at spiritual churches, love and peace? Well, that's our plan. This is our first start, because our hope is to build a centre. This is our mini centre, as it were, at the moment here in Winchester. We've got other sections that you can't see at the moment that we're going to develop to. It's not huge, but it reaches a lot of people. And those of you that are patrons are helping us to do this. So if you want it to happen,
Even
support us and be a patron.
Queen Victoria's amused.
Yeah.
She's amused, Craig.
Yeah. We're doing this in a very English way, which I think is lovely to do it in an English way here in Winchester. But we hope to spread and have a bigger centre one day where we can have perhaps, big public meetings as well.
Yeah, and people can come and have a coffee, tea, and perhaps,
Well, we need the support of individuals. We also need the support of government, I suppose. Would be lovely if we knew how to get a lottery grant or something. That's the sort of thing we really need. And maybe as we develop this and we know we've got supporters, we'll be able to apply to do something on a big scale. That's the hope. But we've had a lot of people helping us, and it's fantastic.
Yes, we have met. Mary's saying, have you both ever met? Yes, we have. And she hugged us. And I had problems with my leg at the time. I had fallen downstairs and ripped a ligament in the back of my leg. And I can remember she threw hundreds of rose petals over the top of us, and we had to kneel down in front of her, and she hugged us. And actually, her cheek is quite bruised through hugging. And suddenly she played a cosmic joke on Craig. As he got up, he limped, and my leg was perfect.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I'm not really a huggy person, to be honest. But a hug from Emma.
He's a hungry person, not a huggy person.
I don't like all this when you go to yoga sanctuaries and things, and the men hug you and the women hug you. I think it's a bit personal space, all that, personally. But that's maybe just me, hung up individual. But when Emma hugs you, she does this mantra in your ear. I don't know what the mantra was, sort of like mum sort of thing. I don't know what it was, ram perhaps. I didn't caught me by surprise when she did that. But there's a there's an absolute incredible energy. And it was only me and Jane, but there's a whole room of hundreds of people that she was doing this to, and does it every day. And every person that goes to see her, even in her ashrams in Kerala, which we've not been to, they all get a hug. And they all get that burst of energy. So she is, I think, right up there with Sai Baba and the rest of them. She's right up there.
I'd call her a spiritual surrogate mother to the people.
Yeah, an absolutely lovely lady. And again, the mark of humility, you see, the mark of modesty that comes with that knowledge and that kindness.
Yeah. Matt's saying, what celebrity or famous person would you love to read for and meet? Well, I have read for famous people, but it's confidentiality that we sign. We can't really tell you. But one incredible person that we did meet and we found very lovely was Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, he was, like I mentioned him earlier. He was one that I was very impressed with, again because of his humility. Very interested in healing. He used to carry a crystal around in his pocket all the time.
Amethyst crystals in his pocket.
Yeah, and of course he did Ghost, which was a fantastic movie, really, because it kind of opened the world up to the idea of life after death in a way that was quite close in many ways to what spiritualism would envisage a communication with the spirit world. None of this silly, it wasn't sort of blithe spirit type of thing. It was a serious understanding. And I know that they did a lot of research for that, because I mean, I've worked with movies where they've done research, like I worked on Sixth Sense movie, and I worked on the movie for The White Noise, and about 20 other movies or so, where they used to just have us in for help with the research. But we didn't work on that one, but I know they did a lot of research for that movie and made it into something that I thought was a very I don't know what you guys think, if you think the same. I think it came close to what mediumship, as we understand it, is about.
I remember an old black and white movie with this girl. She was all dressed in white and she used to connect with the people in the spirit realm. And it worked out. She'd actually died and people hadn't gone through realisation, and she connected everybody. And in the end, people had used her so much that her powers started to dwindle. Now, agility bits. Do you think mediums are generally on the way to enlightenment? There's some like Matt Fraser who are not very humble. I've never heard of Matt Fraser.
Oh, I know, he's American. I'm not going to knock anybody else,
I don't know him, so.
but I do. From my experience, you see, this is one of the dangers of the spiritual path, is what they call the ego, which is the hubris, isn't it? If I pronounced it right, the old Greek idea that the hero gets almost to the end and the great success, and then his ego lets him down. And it's not just men that have egos; women have egos too. And sometimes on the spiritual path, if you've not taken on board the humility, the even-mindedness, as it were, the purity of heart, and so many other things that really are all in Patanjali's there with the niyams and yams. The idea that you must have these sort of basics. You can develop a spiritual power, but often it's a bit like Lord of the Rings, where the ring starts to take over a bit, and you can become like the Gollum and lose your spirituality altogether. But the Gollum started off in that story, didn't he, as one of the hobbits, and that was Tolkien really sort of put his finger on it there, which comes from influenced by much older myths that he took from. But this is a danger, and I think. Like in Patanjali, for example, going back to that, who wrote the Yoga Sutras and things, said that you mustn't see these siddhi powers as the final goal. They are things you pick up on the path, as it were, and you carry them with you for a while and you throw them down again. The psychic powers are not as important as the spiritual awakening. And people can be completely unawakened spiritually and still have siddhi powers. But if the greatest one is if a person has the siddhi powers plus has the awakening. So you've got to judge, you've got to look at people, I think, and look at them and think, what is this person really about? Are they, just because they got mediumistic powers, doesn't mean that they're any better than anybody else. You have to also look to the person and is their conduct right? Is the way they act right? And it's all right being a bit of a show off and things on stage and things. You have to do that. All the mediums have to do that because we have to present ourselves to the world. But at heart, have they got a humble spirit? Are they really there to serve, or are they there to serve their own ego?
Right.
I'm here to serve my own ego.
Mr. Do you think we are in a time of great spiritual awakening, something that Sai Baba also predicted will come? We're definitely in an awakening, aren't we, Craig?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's needed at the moment because all these different germ warfares and all these things, tragedy that's happening around the world, we've got to really stop and think, what are we going to do about it?
Well, I always think the darkness is greatest before the dawn.
Yeah, we're going to light. We're going to the light.
And although we've met a lot of lovely people, like
there's some horrible people.
there's people like Amma and things around, and there's many other great people who you've never heard of, I expect. But I do believe that there is an awakening happening, and it's a quiet thing. It happens quietly. You know, enlightenment is and a spiritual awakening is not something that's a big loud type of thing. It's something that happens to the individual in the quiet of the meditation room, perhaps, or the quiet of a one-to-one contact with the guru, or although no one can do it for you, you have to ultimately do it yourself. But gradually, I think a lot of people are awakened. There's a lot of people watching this show, for example. And so you're all obviously interested in a similar thing to us. But there's an awful lot of people watching bad shows out there as well, and all sorts of rubbish as well, who are obviously not on the path. But I think sometimes when it gets a bit concentrated like this, when people gather together, the power becomes greater. We often find that in a circle, don't you?
And I think the most important thing is to look for an inner view of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you know, you can connect. I love to travel, and Jane loves to travel. We've travelled all over the world and spiritualised what we do. Wherever we go to holy places like, Assisi and all those type of things we went to, but and India and the rest. But ultimately, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's here and now, isn't it? It's in ourselves. This is where, the Godhead is within ourselves. I mean, I think Enlightenment, for example, is all about the fact that everything is God. You know, all of this is God. And I am God, living in God, and you are God, and it's all God, and even this thought is God, and everything is. And that doesn't mean something like a man in the sky sort of tooth fairy sort of God. This is the idea that everything is this one consciousness of awareness. You know, in fact, I think we should throw that word God out, really, and think of it in terms much more of awakening and the bliss of love, of existence.
And talking about love, Mr. Paul Smith, or P. Smith, coffee, I'd be right over.
And we are putting calls out now because we're going to start be doing a lot more of talks with people. So we're opening ourselves up to guests. If you want to get in touch through the website at psychics.co.uk, you can always get in touch, and we want people in here for guests. We're based in Winchester. I'm in Hampshire, south of England. We go out on a Saturday. So if you've got a Saturday free and you've got something, you're a remarkable person, or maybe a humble, remarkable person, or you've got something interesting you'd like to share with us, and your field that you're in and so forth.
Or even
we'll have you on the show with us.
Or even if you're a ghost, you're most welcome.
Yeah, well, we're going to get a few of those, I expect.
Through.
When we start the séance room. So we want to start, getting more, also a few more discussions. I know we could discuss with you guys, but also face to face with other interesting people who would like to join the show. Because I go to the website, psychics.co.uk. Am I going to read this, Jane?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think some people are placed on earth to do good at the right time? The Queen Mum transformed my friend's life by shaking his hand and whispering in his ear that his heart would be filled. Oh, isn't that nice?
That's sweet. I like the Queen Mother. Always like the Queen Mother.
We were talking. You had a guest recently, didn't you? Who knew the Queen's Mother?
But I had one.
I was talking about it yesterday.
Yeah, it actually knew the Queen Mother, Prince Charles, and Diana, and Fergie. And he was saying how lovely the Queen Mother was.
It was his favourite of all the royals, he said to you.
Yeah, because the Queen Mother used to be my favourite, and the Queen. And he was saying about all different things to me, which I can't.
They can't say who's who, because they're not being commissioned.
Saying how lovely the Queen was and the Queen Mother. Now, the Queen Mother used to have séances, I believe, and I won't say where, but had seances, and they were really into all this.
Yeah, I heard Charles was interested in it as well.
Well, Charles is interested in many spiritual things because he did have a South African friend that died, who was very highly intellectual in the spiritual path, that he lost the friend because in Highgrove Garden he's actually got an Islamic garden or different settings for meditation. So he's quite a spiritual person.
Yeah, I mean, I from what we've known, I mean, we've known quite a few people who have quite close to the royal family in our time, haven't we? And there's always been a kind of a, right back to the time of Queen Victoria, really, with what's his name, Brown. I can't remember his first. John Brown, wasn't it? I should be able to remember that.
Medium John Brown.
But, yeah, and he was a spiritualist, and Victoria, of course, wanted to be in touch with Albert, and she had an Osborne House, for example. They used to have quite a few seances with some of the top mediums of the time. We saw the round
table, didn't we, where those seances used to be.
Yeah.
And you can actually, if you go around there, feel the presence of
Victoria, round in Osborne House, I thought that felt to me like it was her proper home there.
When we went into the bedroom and you could sense
where she died, that place, And her love of India was all expressed there.
She never went to India.
She never went, no, she didn't, but she loved India.
And she had Indian servants, and they really, really felt quite blessed by her. And it wasn't until the first Prince of Wales, when she died, actually threw all the servants out.
And I think you say, are some people placed on earth to do good at the right time? Everybody's placed on earth to do good at the right time, except we don't. You know, I mean, I think all people have their place, and a few simple words like the Queen Mum said there can change a person's life.
But you don't have to be a queen or a king to do good things, do you?
No, you don't even have to be in a position of authority or power or anything. It comes from the heart, you know. Hello, Annette here, Sebastian, Florida. Do you think when we encounter a dark person, it brings us close to recognising the good in ourselves?
Well, we don't want to be going near to dark.
Well, everybody in their life encounters people who are not good, you know. I mean, that you often, you know, in life, you might even marry them, you know.
I'm not dark.
No, I'm not saying, but in people's lives, you often, some of the hardest people you encounter are often close to you, you know, are very close to you. And it can be your family, it can be friends, it can be all sorts. And those dark souls, because some people are quite dark, they almost indulge in distress and causing problems for people and self-indulgence and things. And those people do walk the world. And I think when you encounter people like that, you really don't want to be too involved in them.
Walk away from them.
You want to walk away from it most of the time, I think, because you'll get pulled down with them very easily. Good rubs off and bad rubs off on you. Yeah. But you do have to come back to yourself. And I think it's like you said earlier on about inwardly live. You know, you have to be inwardly focused. Yeah. And not be drawn by the people of the world that can always sap you down, and there'll always be people out there that are trying to undermine what you do, particularly if you're happy, because people hate to see other people happy, or the dark people do, as it were. So it's important, I think, always to be focused on yourself, not in a selfish way, but focused, you know, so you're not always drawn by the world. And I think when it comes to the time of death, it makes death easier too, because we're not clawing for having this and having that and worrying. We've already focused ourselves inwardly. It doesn't mean we can't love and experience the world and be a full human being, but we're not being drawn by those negative forces.
Right. Now, Marilyn Planet says, I work for a charity in New York City. The director said Charles used the
Ouija board frequently. Yeah. I've heard this too. You know, the problem is, you know, these are second-person things. We don't know for certain, and I'm sure he would never admit it. But when we did those, because, you know, we met a lot of fascinating people when we did that Spirit of Diana seances that we did for the American TV channel that time. I mean, it was a big show that caused an awful lot of controversy at the time. We went into it a bit innocent. We didn't realise what we were putting our foot into. But it became clear from the people we were meeting there and talking to, who were the confidants of the royal family, many of them were, that there is definitely, and always has been and still is, an interest in the spirit world and communicating with the spirit world. And I think that's a really good thing, because that makes me feel, obviously, you know, you imagine you've got that sort of family that goes back through history, and your connections with some of the great famous names that had come before you. I mean, I bet you'd love to communicate with them. And it must be very hard too, because you also, when you lose somebody like Victoria, who could she turn to in her grief? Who could she speak to? And yet John Brown, the medium, and other mediums too. I mean, we know of John Brown mainly, but the many mediums have helped the royal family over history. And also the Kaiser, I think, was interested in it too. Her cousin, he would have been, wouldn't he? And the Romanovs were interested in it as well. And I think the Dutch royal family and the Spanish, all the families of that era were.
In the Romanovs and the Tsars. What's he called? The bearded.
Oh, monk. You mean I've lost it now too, because I'm going off on another thought. Rasputin, yeah. But I mean, look, Leonora Piper, I think, was one of the mediums that spoke to them, and also D.D. Holm also was consulted by the royals, and the Language of the Hand guide Jericho was also consulted the royal families. I mean, the royal families of Europe have always had an interest in this, and I think it's a good thing. And I wish more people were. I mean, I did that reading for the what's her name, the Shadow Home Secretary, on
Diane.
Miss Diane. What's her name? I've forgotten.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, I've forgotten the black woman, Diane. Oh, I've forgotten her name now. But I did her reading on Mystic Challenge. Sorry.
What is it?
Abbott, Diane Abbott, that's it. I forget her name for a moment. But she was a lovely woman. We did that on the Mystic Challenge. And David Icke we did on there as well and talked to. They were all remarkable, many remarkable people. I mean, I thought David Icke was quite a remarkable man in his own way, because although I don't agree with a large part of what he says, I do think it's good to see someone stand up to the commonplace way of doing things.
Now, Rayla says, do you ever experience that it gets icy cold when a spirit appears? It doesn't always get icy cold, does it? I don't find it icy cold.
No, I think that's often, I mean, when we're doing readings for people, for example, when you're doing mediumship, even in a circle, it's the opposite, actually. It gets hot.
You feel energised.
But I suppose that people do talk about when they're ghost hunting that they get icy drops, and I suppose that would be more so. Yeah, and I don't know. I think it's difficult because these ideas of we're trying to communicate with ghosts and waiting for temperature drops. I mean, again, when you communicate with a spirit, it's inwardly done, isn't it? I mean, you hear them in your mind, you feel them in your mind, you see pictures in your mind. You don't necessarily say, "Oh, the spirit stood next to me," all that, you know. It's an inner connection.
Well, it's an old saying that somebody's just walked over my grave, isn't it? It's gone cold.
Yeah, well, my feet must meet lots of them. Yeah.
Right, Cheryl.
Hello, Craig and Jane Hamilton Parker, Psychic Mediums. Well, that's given the full title. Thanks, Cheryl. Appreciate your readers listening from Massachusetts. I noticed you come up quite a lot, Cheryl, every time we put a video up, and it's nice of you to keep following us at the level you are. Yeah. And yeah, so it's
Jane and Craig, do you still have experience with Sai Baba? Yes, we do sometimes, and I have a lot of Sai Baba devotees that come to me, come to our house, and some come once a year, some come every few months. But what's so nice with the Indian people that follow as devotees, and that they bring you gifts, don't they?
Yeah,
Craig?
in fact, they brought me a rather lovely Indian gear to wear, so I wear it a tunic. I'm going to wear it on the program one week. But the thing with Sathya Sai Baba, in many respects, I know a lot of controversy around him, but in a way our connection with him has increased since we met Sharavana Baba, who's in London now at the moment, over from Kerala, and I went and I wrote my new book, Be Happy, which is all about our experiences with him. Go and buy my new book, Be Happy. It's one of my best, I think. I've enjoyed writing that one. It kind of increases your connection again with him, with Sai Baba, because the same energy, it's a bit like, you know, the divine light, as it were, shines through many colours and many windows, like a stained glass window. And it's the same light shining through different people. And I think it's not, you don't have to follow any one guru or another. You just got to follow the divine light that is through all these people that we've been talking about today in different forms. Sometimes it comes through an enlightened being, a fully enlightened being, but sometimes it comes even through the Queen Mother, you know. Everybody has a connection with that divine light, as it were, and it shines through us all a little bit at a time, I think, you know. And make your light shine is the way it must go.
Last question for tonight.
So we're getting towards close to the end already.
It's quick,
God,
it?
blimey, it seems like
shall we
fun.
explain, we've got a granddaughter that's helping Domenico tonight.
Oh yes, we're in the background tonight. We've got our granddaughter Willow is having a go at doing the putting all these messages up for you and things like that, and the pictures and pressing the buttons and changing the cameras in the control room, as it were. So thanks to Willow over there. And so if you're watching the program for the first time, you know, do subscribe to this channel, because it's we do an awful lot of work, and there's loads and loads of videos going out all the time, and there'll be more and more hopefully as time goes on. Now we got back into the swing of things after Christmas. And if you really want to help us, you know, become a patron, which you can find all about in the comments section below in the description, and you can go to patron.com Hamilton Parker, or just type in Hamilton Parker patron into Google even, and you can subscribe to the channel and just give a small amount per month or a big amount per month, whichever suits you. And that helps us to move this forward. You know, we've got just enough to keep this going and making it go, but we'd love to take it to a higher level, you know, and start to reach out to more people and have people coming to visit and be able to make those people comfortable, be able to buy them lunch and all those type of things. All those are expenses that we have in the background, as well as all the equipment and everything. So, you know, so if you become a patron, it really helps us. And we try to do extras for patrons, like Zoom meetings and occasional bits of new content and things.
Yes.
So you get something back as well,
Yeah.
you know.
And I've got a new YouTube channel, and I do go back to people and I do reply to them. So I should be making a new video next week, Craig.
Yeah, so do a search for the time being. Just do a search on YouTube for Jane Hamilton Parker. You'll find that.
Psychic Medium.
Psychic Medium Jane Hamilton Parker. That would probably be a good one. And we've got a new website coming out very shortly, and you'll be able to go to the new website and you'll see any latest videos by me or by Jane or by both of us are all posted on that automatically. So you'll be able to pick up all the things that are going on in our life on the website. And that'll be going live in a few weeks' time.
Oh, Willow can see all this come out. Hello, Willow.
Yeah,
Thanks,
see,
sweetheart.
hello, Willow,
Lovely.
sweetheart. Thank you,
Thank
little
you,
Willow.
Not
She
so
ought to come and
little
show her
now,
face.
quite tall.
Hello, Dom and Willow.
You just said yes.
So it's quite good, you know, because you learn.
Come and
You
say hello.
give us a wave,
Come
Willow.
here. No, come back closer. No, closer. Hi.
So this is Willow. She's helping us in the background today, you know. So help them
With
when they're young,
Domenico.
you know.
Yeah,
and
we keep it all in the phone. Say hello. Oh.
So thanks to Willow, says Sheila. So it's a family thing. This is a
business.
mum and pop business, I suppose.
Pot and pan.
A pot and pan business, as they say in America.
Oh yeah, Domenico did. We celebrated.
And we had Domenico's
night.
birthday, and I know all the rest of you are saving up for my birthday on Monday, and
Are you having your meal out
24th
tomorrow,
of January,
aren't you?
and so it's great. Opinion on yoga and yogis. Also, happy birthday, Domenico. Well, I think, you know, Nick, I'm a great lover of yoga. I mean, I wouldn't be so fit and handsome as I am today if it wasn't for the great humility that yoga brings me.
Yeah.
But it's tremendous for the health. You know, I think I'd be hobbling around if it wasn't for yoga. You know, and inwardly it does such good things too. Willow, beautiful name, like a cricket bat.
Yeah,
cricket bat.
Her full name is Willow Blossom.
But it is a nice name, isn't it? And she's quite a tall girl, as you see, so quite willowy. Jane's 2022 World Predictions video. Her own predictions would be
Yes,
lovely.
as I said, I will be doing that soon. I've been incredibly busy with readings, filming, and we have had a death in the family, so we're still waiting for a date.
Yeah. We lost
Funeral.
my mum recently, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
and then we've got
we're
business
cheery,
in Italy
but
as well. So, yeah, I definitely will. When Craig stops talking and I'm quiet and still, not waiting on this man hand and foot, washing, ironing, doing his shirts and everything, I will definitely give you a year's predictions.
yeah, and
Confusing Craig with me.
Huh?
You are confusing Craig with me.
Am I?
but making these predictions is quite hard work actually, because you do have to sit and tune in, you know, and it's a lot of work to do them actually. I've always find them hard going. So where are we going with this? Did you ever meet Thich Nhat Hanh?
No, I don't believe we have.
I don't think we have.
I don't
think I know who
have.
Thich Nhat Hanh is. But we
have.
met a lot of it. I mean, there's so many more we could talk about, isn't there? That have had an influence, and even politically, some of the people that we've met, and those type of people too. I mean,
Oh, I know another famous person we met, Julia Roberts' brother.
oh yeah, he was a fantastic guy.
Yeah,
And
Eric Roberts.
what was that gay leader that I met? I've forgotten his name now.
A gay leader?
Yeah, the one that did all the pulled, went through all stuff all over the Pope and things. Thatcher. Oh, I've forgotten his name. Gave him a reading.
Wait a minute, come to me.
I've forgotten his name now.
Yeah, I know his name. He was very much
Senior moments.
He was very much into.
We
I
met all the
remember you went. He was in a flat, wasn't he? Peter something. No, not
facial
Peter.
Thatchell.
Thatchell.
Something.
His name
It
was
was lovely.
Thatchell.
Another man that does a lot of good in his own way, actually. I think, and helps the tremendous
Somebody's
work for the
birthday today,
gay
so
community.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Craig and Dom. Good. Today is my birthday. Well done, Mary. You must be a decent person. You must be an Aquarian. Us modest Aquarian people. Yeah. So I suppose we're coming to the end of it soon, aren't we? So please accept my condolences.
Oh,
yes,
thank
from
you.
my mum. I know we keep cheery for the show, but it's been quite hard in the background, of
Stressful,
course, you
isn't it?
know. But there's not been an easy period for us. Even that when you're a spiritualist, it's still.
Oh, that's nice.
Happy birthday for Monday, Craig. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Precious. Thank you both so much for another great live.
Yeah.
Thank you, Precious. Beautiful name, Precious, isn't it?
De Vere sounds posh.
Oh, Karen, will you both be doing another set on the royal family and joining both of your website? Well, I don't know. We may do.
Well, yeah. I mean, it'd be fantastic if
I
we
am
get
going to
somebody
do some
that.
predictions of the royal family, actually. And I think the good thing, Craig, is we should hold up a newspaper with a date so nobody can say, like some of these psychics do it after the event.
Yeah, well,
don't
the
they?
upload time on the YouTube would tell you, but you can do that as well. And I also, it would be quite nice to see if we could maybe, when we get the seance room bit, which is over that way on the other side of the room there, going, it would be nice to maybe do our own, like we did Spirit of Diana, but do it in our own way with
Yeah.
it, you know, and
Yeah.
have some people and maybe connect with some of the famous people if we can find people who knew them really closely.
Not
You know,
somebody that's
not
a
someone
fan.
that's just a fan, but somebody that knows them well. We'd like to do some really deep connections, and maybe who knows who we could get. So if there's anybody out there, for example, I get a feeling someone from the, I get a feeling as I'm talking here, someone from the pop music period of the, I'm getting a feeling someone from that era, the sort of times of the Who and all
Well, I
that
don't
in the
think it's
60s,
Meatloaf.
would
It's
like me
too
to connect
soon.
with someone.
He's only gone the
No,
other
not
day.
me. No, I'm thinking I've just getting it now that someone's watching this at the moment, was involved in the 60s and 70s, and would like to connect with someone that's passed over from that. It's not Keith Moon, but it's something, that type of feeling I'm getting. You're welcome to come on the show, and we'll make a connection, me and Jane, for you.
I have had famous people in groups, haven't I?
We have had them, but I'm just feeling someone's watching this as we're doing this now, and I
Peter
feel.
Thatcher.
Peter Thatcher, that
That's
nice
it.
man.
I
Actually,
said
he
Peter,
was very
not
open.
Thatcher.
He was quite sceptical, but but his gay boyfriend came through, and I think he.
You shouldn't discuss
Well,
his
yeah,
personal life,
Peter Thatcher did it on camera. Who'd thrown himself out of a window, actually. So.
Yes, Karen, it was very interesting about the Seychelles. We've met some remarkable people.
And we've only
around the world.
just touched the surface of the hundreds and hundreds of people we've met. But I think it's nice to talk about them sometimes, because I mean, some of you know some of these, you know, who they are. Love your predictions. I've watched Craig's predictions several times. Sorry for your loss, I thank you. And happy birthday. Thank you for tonight.
That's nice.
I wasn't going to mention any of that, actually. I suppose one does. Much appreciation and gratitude for this live. I enjoyed this live.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, 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 celebrity predictions. Now, that would be a good one because you're good at that.
Am I?
Well, you know,
I thought I was-
I don't know who's who when it comes to celebrities.
Yes, but I'm not worried about celebrities because they're only human beings that come in this world the same way and leave. When people say celebrities, it's not exactly like film stars like Elizabeth Taylor.
No, I
Richard
find the things I
Burton.
get messed.
Everyone's saying they're a celebrity.
The things I seem to get right most are things like calamities like that, volcanoes and things like that. I seem
I'm
to
quite
pick
good at
up on
doing
that.
too.
Seems to get
You're
more of
being
that.
known
Right.
as Dr. Gloom.
Oh, they've already put me on Wikipedia as the Prophet of Doom.
Oh,
And
that's
the
not
new
true.
Nostradamus and the Prophet of Doom. I think, oh,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, thank
At
you
least
very
you're
much.
not put on as Gollum. Think about it.
Twit of the year. Willow's done a great job tonight. Well done,
Yeah,
Willow.
thank you. Yeah, that's helping.
Dominica's helping her. So definitely, I love to hear these stories. Oh, good.
Good.
So I'm glad you like this type of thing because sometimes this is just a chit chat between me and Jane, really. But
Chitty chatty.
chitty chatty, as Dominico says. We're also trying to learn Italian at the moment, aren't we?
Buongiorno.
So, it looks like we're coming to the end now. So, thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and thanks for being part of the show. Thank you particularly to all those patrons out there that are making this all possible. And we're going to say bye to you all now, aren't we?
Yes.
So, we're going to say bye for
Bye.
now.
Bye.
Namaste.
Would you like to know more about the paranormal world? Craig Hamilton Parker's books are now available on Amazon. Explore the future. Discover what happens after death. Unlock the secrets of your dreams. Learn to develop your own psychic skills.